I'm not sure. Like, it was a big change in that this was the first time I could like clearly see them and identify what I was seeing, and I felt like it was kind of like the universe, giving me some message that this is where I need to be. This is what I need to be thinking about. Like, these things are here to help me in some way.
Yes, and many children see them too. About 75% of the world's children today are being born with etheric vision. And when your children talk with people and have daydream playmates, the chances are they are actually speaking to some of these people. Because these angels or angelic forces, or nature spirits as they're often called, will often make themselves seen.
And all of a sudden I hear him go, whoa, or, something like that. So I look up, and as I look up, I see this thing.
And I said, I've never seen a butterfly like you before.
I know that the paranormal is real. Listen.
As soon as I spoke to it, it turns around and makes eye contact with me, and then it stands upright.
And it was at that moment that I saw it was like an orange light appear above this row of trees. And from this sort of orange light, this thing appeared. Its wings were actually like sycamore leaf shaped.
And I started talking to them. I'm like, hi, are y'all the dwarves? And I would hear whispers that would say, hi, yeah, you want to play? And it wasn't just my imagination. And I had told them, I'm like, my dwarves, they like beer, And my dad's like, yeah, sure, your dwarves like beer. And they were holding a conversation, and his beer slid upwards instead of downwards, how the house was tilted. And him and my brothers jumped up.
So I stopped calling out Adam, and I'm just my mind draws a blank, and I stop behind that tree stump. I'm pretty close to it now because I took a few steps forward, and I see this thing.
Welcome everybody tonight to Fascinating Fae. Tonight we're traveling to New Zealand to talk with Hayley. Hayley, how are things going in New Zealand tonight?
They're lovely, and actually as I sit here I can see out into the garden and I can see heaps of fairies. It's been raining and sunny, so I'm just seeing all these sparkling lights out there. Wow, what a great answer to the way that I start every episode. That one caught me off guard. I like that answer. Well, we're off to a good start for that reason. Hayley, what I do at the start of every show is I jab away for a minute and kind of give the lay of the land for the show. Could I do that for you now, if that's cool? Oh, sure.
Okay, thank you so much. When I say jab away, I mean jabber away, is what I meant to say. So here on Fascinating Fae, what are we trying to do with this show? We're trying to collect fairy stories, and a big part of opening up space for that to happen means doing away with this idea that like this is an investigative journalism show. You're not here to convince me of anything. I'm not here to convince you of anything. Fairy stuff is difficult to quantify and communicate. And so the added pressure of that, you've got to convince me, I think detracts from intuition functioning and from getting, the truth of what's really going on with people out onto the table. So I just like to let everybody know we don't try to do that here. The second thing I say is it's brave to come on the show. And if I may, Hayley, I appreciate that it's taken some time for you to feel comfortable enough to come forward. And I really appreciate and acknowledge my guests who are tentative at first. And so I just want you to know we're going to have a good time. It's brave to come on the show. And I mean that not as a platitude, but as a sincere, kind of welcome into the door here. And thank you for being here and being brave enough to be here.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure.
And then finally, just a note on the show's process. I like to let my guests, in this case yourself, have as much time and space to weave a narrative. And that may include going back in time, giving some context about yourself, that kind of stuff. Wherever you feel like, you want to add value and help us understand where you might be coming from as you go to launch into some of your, stuff that you've come here to talk about tonight, it's totally welcome. I like to have more out of people than less, but it is always boils down to what you're comfortable with. And the way that I do it is I just kind of keep quiet as the guest leads off the show, and then I'll jump in when you're done naturally to ask questions and to carry the conversation on. So with all that out of me and, the necessary kind of bumpers on the bowling alley for a safe and fun conversation laid out, I just ask you now, if you'd be so kind, Haley, you sent me this great, opening line, which is, I see fairies and they leave me things. And that's a great way to get, Jim from Fascinating Fae, super attentive. So maybe just with that lead off, if you could kind of qualify that for me and just tell me more about that. I'm here to learn and hear from you. I'm so fascinated to get into this with you tonight.
Sure. Okay, so I have like a whole kind of history with fairies, but in regards to the fairies leaving things for me, that's quite a new development. I'm an artist, a fine art photographer, and like about a year ago, I moved into this house in the mountains, in the valley of the mountains, with a stream running through it. Our house is really beautiful with a bridge, like a fairy tale bridge that you have to walk over to come to the house. And then there's a big garden here with lots of flowers and fruit trees and native New Zealand bush. And I'll just be out in the garden, each day doing the gardening or feeding the eels. And I started to find really beautiful things in the garden that often felt out of place, like a root or something. And I would just look at the root and know that, well, for one, it would make a beautiful photograph, but also there was something alive about it. And the fairies left me. And I came to the conclusion that these objects I was being given were left for me to photograph. And so then I would bring them inside to my studio and photograph them. And this magic would come alive. And I kind of feel like I have to question why the fairies are leaving them for me. And as weird as this may seem, I kind of feel like I'm acting as their publicist. I feel like they want me to. I feel like they want pictures out there in the world because they want more people to know about their magic. And why is that? Maybe it's just so that we can look after nature more.
I've had the privilege of looking at some of your photography, and it's very rewarding to hear you describe the limited backstory that you've just shared there about the photography, because these objects do seem remarkable to me as well. I can understand why they would catch your attention. Let's go back a bit. You mentioned that you have some history with the subject matter. Tell me more about that, please.
Yeah, so I just remember my childhood, and I remember the first time kind of consciously having a flying dream. And the next morning I woke up and I truly believed that I could fly. So I jumped off a fence, didn't fly, jumped off the roof, didn't fly, but became a pretty good jumper. But just my point of telling that story is my dreams have always been very close to me. I feel like I've always been linked in with my dreams they're a big part of me. And then as a child growing up, my favorite games to play were under trees. I would climb under trees, big macrocarpa trees or pine forests or the native bush. And I would make these little shops, which looking back now, I feel like they were fairy shops. I would have these leaves, and on the leaves I would put little berries or little acorns. Sometimes it would grow and grow to be like a supermarket. I would go over, I'd go home at night, go back inside the house, come out the next day. Some of the things were gone. Sometimes they were all destroyed by critters or whatever. But I just feel like that was me playing with the fairies as a child without even consciously knowing that that's what I was doing.
I really like that component part of you having a flying dream so real that you attempted to then thereafter, fly yourself in waking reality. Also, I really like the way you're describing kind of like a fairy market and that youthful play. One of my favorite early guests is Eileen from the UK, who describes a remarkably similar connection with her play as a young girl. In that case, to the Cottingley fairies, which she believes that she saw one in the Cottingley estates back in behind her house. It's been a while since I've thought of Eileen. You're very soft spoken. You kind of remind me of her. She was one of my favorite early guests on the show. So that helps me understand sort of your context in your earlier days. As you're kind of moving towards like moving into this new home, was your perspective on fairies still something that was awake and active in you, or are these recent events something that kind of woke that up?
Yeah, so there was a moment. So I've like in my whole life I've also seen like spirits from the spirit world, and I've always seen things in shadows and in lights. And then it really came to be really clear to me when I had quite a traumatic childhood and ended up addicted to hard drugs. And in my late 20s, I came off the hard drugs. And when I came off them, I started to see fairies in the trees around my old house. And they were just little, like kind of what a traditional fairy would look like. They were usually brown colored. I kind of thought of them as like hazelnut fairies. And they would just be out there watching me, dancing for me. And I felt like it was, I'd probably kind of like clouded myself with those drugs for so many years that now that veil was lifted and I was able to see a new world.
You have this very matter of fact way of talking, which it's taken me a second to get used to, but I actually am finding that I really like. Right there, that's when my goosebumps kicked in. So it's interesting that we kind of peeled back that layer there. The 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 themes of recovery, especially recovery from addiction, are extremely prominent in this show. And
Wow.
and you are not the only person who's describing the recovery process, unlocking that, and I would even include myself in that, because
Yeah.
I had a very crippling alcohol addiction, as a result of some heavy duty traumas that happened earlier in my life. And it wasn't until I completely dealt with that and other things in my life that I actually saw my fairy. And
Yeah.
I know, Haley, that you're not like a super fan of the show or anything. You've listened to just a handful, but I promise you that if you do have a chance to listen to more, you will hear dozens of people for whom their contact and vision with fairies is associated with a story of personal recovery. Can I tell you why I think that is, and then ask you why you might think that is afterwards? Or let me ask you first, why do you think that might be, now that I've just told you that comes up a lot?
Okay, so I do have a theory, and my theory is that people that get into addiction, it's because like we know that there's more to this life. Like we know there's more than, just living as a normie 9 to 5 job or whatever. We know there's more, and we don't know what it is. And at first, when we like have drugs, we think that's what it is because it puts us in some sort of fog or something, or it might put us closer to, our form of God or whatever that might be. And so I just think it's about we think there's more. And then, but really what drugs do is cover up any kind of connection to anything more. So then when you take the drugs away, you're more open to what else is out there.
I think that that's really accurate. And I would add to that like the part about those that are predisposed to this happening in their lives are more sensitive and knows that there's
Yeah.
more. That's very true.
Yeah. Yeah.
like just again, I'll just offer myself up here because it's the best context I have for any discussion. I mean, all of my like stuff, like whether it was doing environmental activism or doing drugs or I was always trying to find an outlet for this displaced sense that I knew this is not what we should all be doing right here on this planet, and why am I singularly always feeling so alone and sensitive to all the things going on and just able to understand like this is wrong and everybody else seems like blind to it. And I mean, I'm overgeneralizing, but that sense of there's something more and deeper that I wish to be connected to than a potential career and, retirement planning, for example, right? It is a kind of, it's maybe for everybody it's true. And some people have a way of compartmentalizing it better than others. But for those that come on the show that have this kind of storyline, I do think it's a similar archetype of person, someone who is more on the fairy side anyway, in terms of intuition, empathy, understanding, and the way that they dream about the world being. And the constant trauma of living in an opposite world, which is very harsh and full of atrocities and stresses, is too much to handle, And so the other part that I'll add to is like, I do think that fairies, see, what you said is is an extremely good observation about like once you take the drugs away, your vision personally is more open to the possibilities of what's there. Almost like a rebound effect from having first been dampened and now you're kind of hyper clear. I like that conceptually a lot, and I think that is a huge part of it. I also think, and this might be, wacky to contemplate, but I think fairies are real, very real. I think that they can judge a person's character and heart and intentions. And I think that fairies know that tangling with their existence is difficult. And I think they look for strong people that they can trust will handle the truth of it and integrate it in a way that is non-disruptive for them. And I think that at least in part, they are showing themselves to those who recover because those people demonstrate a kind of strength that fairies find appeal in. And, I have no way of proving that. It's just a sense. When I hang up with a lot of people that I talk to, I always think to myself, like, that's a strong person. I really respect and admire that person. And I get that real strength coming off of you. I mean, you're like strong like a brick or something. You've got this real resolute feeling. I know you're just sitting there being quiet, but I can really feel you. I'm like, this is a strong person. So, okay, so there's that. Addiction, recovery, and fairies. What an interesting, thread of connection through many of these episodes. Let me ask you another question. Okay, so you said that you started to see like brown fairies that you call acorn fairies. If you would be so kind, can you describe? Sorry, go ahead, Haley. What did you say there?
Sorry, it's just they weren't acorn fairies; they were hazelnut fairies.
Hazelnut.
Just to be specific.
Thank you. Yeah, hazelnut and acorn are totally different, but they're both like a tree nut, so that's where I got confused.
Yeah.
Tell me more about what they look like. Is my question, please?
Well, they're kind of, so I can't see their faces or anything, but they're probably about 3 inches tall, and I usually just am attracted to the light. Like I see like a dancing light, which may be a dewdrop or something, or a leaf blowing in the wind with the light catching on it. Closer, and I'll see like these ones that I saw were kind of like what traditional fairies look like almost like a like a little strawberry shortcake doll. Yeah, a little doll dressed up in nature clothes. The clothes are made of nature. So it could be like an acorn hat or, a shell outfit or something.
It's interesting. The limited photography that I've seen that I think of as, valid, it's exactly like you're describing. They have essentially nature-based attire.
Yeah.
So when you started to see the fairies in your recovery process, what on earth did you think was going on? How did that impact you? That's my next question.
I don't think I thought of it consciously how it impacted me, but I had like children after that, and then I kind of, you have to decide like how to bring up your children, how to do that best. So we got involved in the Waldorf school movement. Do you know about that?
I am familiar with Waldorf School.
Yeah. And so that was kind of a place where it was very nature based, and fairies are quite a big part of it. So I brought up my children kind of believing in fairies, and it would just be like a common subject that we would talk about. Like we lived like in the country, in the bush, and if I saw a fairy, I'd point it out to them. So encourage their belief and faith in fairies.
One of the big fascinations of the show is just how are people integrating these experiences. And I think it's really beautiful that you're encouraging your children to explore those belief systems. Also, before I forget, congratulations on your recovery.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
Yeah, it is. And I work in a Waldorf school now, just part time, and what we do is talk about fairies, and some other children come here to visit us. They're not Waldorfian children, and the first time they came, I talked to them about the fairies. I said, "Oh, I can show you where they are." No, "Oh, fairies aren't real," and then the next time they came back, the little girl was pointing out where the fairies were to me. So I thought that was really beautiful. Like she's now a believer.
Well, it's funny. We're like doing the same work. It sounds like I'm here trying to get all the big kids to believe again that fairies are real.
Yeah.
and you're doing it with the little kids. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So, like in the Waldorf school, although I'm familiar with it, you're now making me ask some questions about how they might interpret or understand fairies. What's the Waldorf understanding of what fairies are and how that's communicated to kids? Is there like a policy or is it more interpretive?
There's actually like a lot of like theory behind it all, which I'm not that I don't know that much about that. For me, it's all instinctive. But I don't, they make little dolls for the children, which don't have eyes. And what's that about? I think that's like and the children, they don't start drawing until they're a little bit older. Like they're not supposed to pick up a crayon until they're 7, because the Steiner believes that children go, or our bodies go in 7-year cycles, and the first 7 years is when the child is dropped down from the stars and they're just learning to come into their physical body. So the first 7 years is about their physical development. The next 7 years is about their intellectual development. So that's when they'll start learning to read and write, and that's when they'll start drawing. And they start learning to write first by drawing symbols. So they will each be given a symbol for their name. My child her one looked like a butterfly. And then the third 7 years so that's from the age of 14 to 21, is emotional development. And obviously that figures because that's when a child's the most emotional. And there's more cycles from there. I think the cycle I'm in now, I'm in my like late 40s, early 50s, is the cycle of coming into my own, like coming into wisdom and having people listen to me, like the hard work's out of the way.
Huh. I'm 47 and I'm just kind of listening to you intently and thinking about myself in relation to what you're describing. Seems potentially very accurate. I'm going to have to look into the Waldorf school more. I know there's like a very interesting backstory to that. I've heard something about it in depth on a podcast one time, but with the amount of podcast consumption I do. Sometimes it all just gets mixed together to one big soup in my brain. You're being very generous with all these kind of background insights and, sort of related insights. But let's get kind of back into some of these photos and objects that you're finding, because that stuff is super interesting to me as well. So moving, forward with the idea that like you've gone through this recovery, you've started to see fairies. It's so interesting to hear you again, just that matter of factness about it. I'm trying to detect what kind of impact it's had on you, but I sense that there was almost a knowingness there beforehand. So it maybe there was no impact. It was like a return to knowing or something is kind of the way I feel from you. Does that seem accurate? Like when it started to be something where you could see fairies, was that a big change for you, or was that more something like returning to a comfort?
I'm not sure. Like, it was a big change in that this was the first time I could like clearly see them and identify what I was seeing. And I felt like it was kind of like the universe, giving me some message that this is where I need to be. This is what I need to be thinking about. Like, these things are here to help me in some way. And my photography, I didn't become an artist until later. So I didn't become an artist till the age of 40. And I had some LSD. And that night I was playing with a children's telescope and started photographing through the telescope to kind of see these other dimensions. And then it happened overnight, like the LSD must have changed some pathway in my brain. And all of a sudden, like truly overnight, I became this really good artist. I wasn't an artist before that. So that was like another kind of magical thing that happened.
It is fascinating to talk with you. Listen, when I do this show, I just am myself. Like, I'm not a professionally trained podcaster. I don't have a media background. And there's something about you that I find it's so matter of fact and resolute, but deeply fascinating at the same time. Because when you just told me that little story there, I got, again, that wave of goosebumps. And although you're not a particularly emotive storyteller, your stories are loaded with a lot of meaning and power. It's very, very interesting. So you're looking through this children's telescope. Tell me more about that exactly. When you say you're looking at these other dimensions, is this like your experience on LSD, or is this kind of like an intuition that you were having at the time about what you were doing? I'm just really curious about that aspect of it a little bit more, please.
Yeah. So I was on LSD and I was looking through the telescope at my friends that we were all tripping together. And then I thought, oh, I'll take a photo of that because it looks amazing. So I didn't even have a good camera. My children had a little camera. It's like a, $100 camera. So I took photos through the telescope of my friends. And I got this idea, like my children at that stage were extremely beautiful, and their friends were really beautiful as well. And for years and years, I'd been collecting these kind of fairy dresses, like not like, like $2 store fairy dresses, but beautiful antique 1920s, 1930s dresses. And I didn't really know why I was collecting them. I just was. And then I had this vision. I'm going to take the children out into the forest and take photos of them in these dresses. And that all happened while I was on the LSD. So about a week later, I got all the children together, took them out into the forest, took these photos. Very soon, some people saw those photos, made a music video out of them. One of the photos got on a record cover, and it just went from there. I became an artist from that day. And then the fairy thing has been more recent, where the fairies, since I moved to this house a year ago, where the fairies are actually putting things there for me.
When did you start to create imagery that it includes fairies? Because I've seen some of your work. So when did that start to become a theme, that you were producing work with fairies in it?
Yeah, like it's a good question, right? Because I think like probably right from, was it 15 years ago, whatever, when I started, I think you could say there were fairies in those pictures, but it's only been in the last 6 months where I'm starting to really identify that that's what I'm doing.
we've agreed to keep you anonymous, but to what extent you might be willing to share one of your, photos of your work anonymously, it would be valuable. But I'll do my best to describe what I've seen for the audience listening at the very least. You do have an incredibly nice touch and great artistic style. I would say that what I saw looked like someone who'd been producing art their entire life.
Mm.
And I really like your depictions of fairies. They're kind of macabre and dark a little bit and a little bit off, but extraordinarily delicate and beautiful and very, very evocative of the energy that I feel that these little things possess, which is kind of a duplicitous energy of a little bit dark and a little bit light, all contained within the same entity. And yes, I do think that, your work is good. And so I hear you say that you became a very good artist almost overnight. That's also really fascinating. I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of muse. Do you feel that in this circumstance you're having a type of muse with the Fae?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always felt like that with my art, that I actually don't feel that it's me doing it at all. I do feel like it's something working through me. I'm just the vessel for it.
How does that work for you? Explain the feeling or process of that happening, please.
Okay, so say if I decide to do a photo shoot with a person or something, I will, take the photos, and that's all very kind of matter of fact, I guess. It's like, okay, you stand here, you dress like this, move like this. I direct them, and we take the photos, and then and that's all kind of perfunctory. Like you have to do that to take photos, but then things will start appearing. Like they'll start getting a glint in their eye that I know is coming. It's not from me directing them. It's not from them. It just starts to come alive in this way that there's something mystical going on. And now that I'm working, the fairy art is not with living things, it's with, fallen leaves, bits of bark. It's the same, I'll pick this object up from my garden, I'll bring it into the studio, I'll be looking at it, I'll be photographing it. It's perfunctory. I know, oh, this looks a little bit like, it's got a soul in it. But then just as the time goes on, the soul starts to show itself to me. It comes alive, and it's telling me, turn me that way, angle me this way, move the light that way. And it just comes alive. And I honestly don't think it's me doing it. It's them doing it.
Your process sounds fairly similar to automatic writing, which is something that was described to me recently by a guest, Amy.
Yeah.
So these found objects that you've sent me some photos of are remarkable. How are these appearing in your garden? Take me through that a little bit more. I'm really curious about where you find them exactly.
Yeah, so some of the driftwood ones that I sent you, I'm finding on the beach. Each night, we have a beautiful beach here at Kari. It's where they filmed The Piano. I don't know if you've seen that film. But I would just be walking along, usually at sunset, and I was, whether I'm looking up at the sky or looking down at the sand, I will see an object there, and there'll be something like a swan over in the stream looking at me, and it's like the swan's telling me, pick it up, that's special. So I pick it up, I look at it, I can see that it's got this soul in it. It's lived. Where's it been? What's its story? To other people, it might just be a piece of driftwood, but to me, it's something. And so then I bring that home and photograph it. And the same as the garden here, I will just decide to I'll be out there and I'll just see something. I think I sent you a picture of my Datura fairies. So they're just the Datura flowers that have died and fallen off the tree, and I'm just picking them up off the ground. To other people, they're just going to look like half rotten, dead Datura flowers, but I can see the soul in them, and as I'm picking them up under the tree, I feel this energy under the tree, and then I bring them in and photograph them, and they come alive for me and start kind of dancing before me, and that ends up what the image is of.
One of the things that has gone on for me anyway, doing this show, is this how I'm like dealing with imagery that people are sending me. I get a lot of like images that are not exactly clear, that I have to kind of use my mind's eye to go the rest of the way and say, okay, I see what this person is pointing out that they believe is a photograph of a fairy or something of that nature. And then there's your photographs, which I am fascinated to hear the process by which you're being guided to kind of move them and position the light and stuff, because a lot of the photographs that you send are extremely like powerful for a picture of a piece of wood.
Yeah.
They truly do contain a kind of aliveness, and I like how you said, like, they look like they've been loved almost. Where have they been?
Yeah.
So, one of the things that's, again, I'm usually a much better host than this, but you're an interesting interview for me. So I'm just going to let this episode be what it is with no, there's no goalposts on this show. So we're not trying to achieve any one thing. It's a good lesson for me to just like hold space for whatever may come. But I want to kind of help you as well, because, the audience is just listening and they're not looking at these images. The depth of, I would say, like gnarliness, and ancient looking detail to some of these objects is truly profound, as is the kind of expression of wings found in many of the pieces. That's something that really stands out for me, is a lot of these pieces look to be fae in and of themselves, to me anyhow. Is that what it's like for you?
Yeah, I think probably what I am doing is anthropomorphizing these objects. But I think maybe what my skill is, anyone can anthropomorphize anything, but I'm probably able to bring that out so other people can see it.
Yeah, that's a very accurate description of what you're doing, because you're taking, what, like you rightfully said, to some might just appear to be a piece of driftwood. And I also really like how you're photographing them against a black backdrop, which brings a huge amount of depth out of the object. But yes, you're doing something that is allowing the magic in that object to be seen by all, which I think is really, really remarkable. I think you actually know exactly what you're doing. You articulated it very, very well there. I'm super happy to hear that it's not just like a fluke, because I feel that when I look at those things, and to hear you say that that is your intent, I would let you know as the viewer matches my response. So well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you have been extremely reluctant to talk with me, and which I understand, because I can understand that many might not understand exactly what you're doing there. But I feel you, and I get it, and I think you're doing a very, very good job of that, because the truth is that the beauty of fairies exists literally in every single microscopic piece of nature, So pulling out what that feeling is from these objects is a huge process, one in which the plant grew, died, made it to the sea, washed up on the beach, was found by you, is being positioned and photographed with this knowledge and intent in your heart. And the end result is truly the sum of all of those pieces. It's very, very well done.
Thank you.
Have you shown your fairy art broadly in New Zealand, or is it something that you keep to yourself?
I regularly have exhibitions, but I haven't had a specific fairy exhibition yet, but that's exactly what I'm working on at the moment. So I probably got enough to go. So I think I might do it at the end of the year.
Yeah, I intuitively sense that will be very successful for you.
Well, thank you. It's interesting because my fairy pit, like you said, that they seem a bit, there's a bit of darkness in them. And it's funny because to me they're only light, but and I always think of my art as only light, but the feedback I always get from other people, there's a darkness there too. But I think that makes sense because, a lot of people think fairies are dark. but I don't.
Huh. Yeah, there's again just something about you that I can't put my finger on, but that I like. And I just kind of think like dark is light and light is dark. And is there much of a difference between either in a way? And I think you embody like, I just, it's very, what am I trying to circle around? What you said there is very, very interesting, that you think of them as only light, but that the feedback that you get is that they contain a lot of dark. There's something there that is so authentic about what you're pulling off and is very true to how you're seeing it. And it's just so interesting that that's the response you get. What do you make of that people see it as dark, other than that you think people might think fairies are dark? I mean, what does that bring up for you when you hear that I say there's kind of some darkness there?
I don't know, maybe it's something to do with my shadow self or something coming through that I'm not aware of. But it's just the feedback I get all the time is that when I started, I got this funding to, start a business, and one of my plans was to have an exhibition. This would have been my first exhibition in our local coffee shop. And I went to the coffee shop all fueled up with all this excitement. And the lady at the coffee shop said that my art was too dark and she couldn't have it in the coffee shop. And I just didn't understand, and I was really offended. But as time's gone on, like, it is what it is. Like, I don't know. I have a whole theory about lightness and darkness. I have this theory that there's this, like, all the goodness in the world is this, like, golden light going around. And, I feel like I'm always trying to be part of that golden light, and all the good leaders in the world, the good people, are part of that golden light. And then there's the darkness, which is all the obvious darkness in the world. And there's a little bit of that. And I'm always trying to get into the golden light. And I don't know, I think that's going to be a lifelong thing I'm going to keep trying for. I just think the dark touches me, and I don't know why, and I don't know how to get rid of it, but it's there. It's just part of me, and obviously part of my art. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, because there's nothing implicitly dark about your art. It's not like bones and ghouls or anything like that, but it's got some sort of shadow component to it. That again, I'm not offering you like just a platitude or anything. I think fairies do have this kind of angsty part to them, and you capture it very well. So it's very, very interesting that you've received that feedback previously.
Yeah, and that whole kind of like, I've been since I've been having these experiences with fairies lately. I've been reading about it, and there's a lot of like lore around fairies, that they are a bit dangerous. Don't take gifts from them. You don't tell them your name, like little rules like that. And I actually think that that's all nonsense. And I think that stuff is all made up to keep the idiots away. And I think that the people that are truly like connected to the Fae, however we are, that we have this respectful relationship with them, and those silly little rules are just nonsense.
I think those rules are nonsense too. That's what I was saying earlier when I was like, I don't really like the idea that I have to understand this through the rules of folklore.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't know, that just doesn't feel... I like what you said. It's to keep all the idiots out.
And I feel like it's kind of the whole myth of fairies has been kind of dumbed down by like Disney and things like that.
Certainly some of the stuff I've experienced and chronicled is nothing short of like Astonishing should be the lead story on the evening news. But yes, it's somehow all just like relegated to Disney.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Do you think the powers that be know of the true power of fairies and are trying to keep it hidden?
I'm not sure, because I actually think the Fae want to be more present. And because that's, I think I said this at the beginning, I kind of feel like I'm acting as their publicist at the moment. Like, they want people to believe in them. They want people to respect nature more. They want to be brought into this world more. And yeah, I'm not sure why they're not and why it's all been dumbed down like that. I haven't thought about that.
Yeah, I asked that question because it seems like it's a constant uphill battle to be taken seriously. But I mean, I'm just speaking from my own personal perspective here. However, the truth of it is very powerful and profound to contemplate if one should become in possession of this knowledge. So when I ask myself, like, why is it that there's such a fringe interest in fairies, and it's not more widespread? I don't know if it's for lack of contact. I think lots and lots and lots of people are experiencing contact, but I think there's kind of like a psyops campaign, if you would, that has denigrated the imagery of fairies down to child's play, and is very disempowering to an adult, especially who's trying to go there. And so, the bravery that you have, not coming on the show, is not just the bravery to talk to me here tonight. It's the bravery to stand in opposition of the status quo, to unlearn and then relearn your own truth, which is, in my opinion, very factually correct. And like we rightfully pointed out, in contrast with a bunch of untruth that doesn't sit well with us and leaves us disaffected, So truly, the real fairy experiencers are tough shit. And using art as a way of getting that knowledge out of yourself and onto the page is extremely constructive. And I really, think everybody listening has a lot to learn from you, just about how to have that perspective and how to walk in that skin. I definitely think you're going to have a successful fairy exhibition if you do it.
Oh, thank you. I am going to do it. I'm still working on a title for it. So far, all I've got is Away with the Fae, but I think I can do better than that.
Away with the Fae has a nice ring to it.
It's like Away with the Fairies, but yeah.
So let me ask you, as we, I noticed we're getting to that, close to our part in our conversation, which is a great juncture to kind of move towards some of my typical wind down processes here in the show. But before we get there, you mentioned, you've been having experiences with fairies of late. Is there anything more that stands out to you? Any objects that you found that stand out, or any other instances you'd like to share here tonight as we go to move on?
Just that there's obviously all the little fairies around here. When I started seeing them, I said to them, you please enter my dreams, come into my dreams. And then they came into my dreams, and I dreamed that I was on a leaf inside a dewdrop. And then the next day, I made this really beautiful art. I'll send it to you if you like. It's kind of a leaf with a princess on it being pulled by a Pegasus. And I honestly feel like I, let them in, and they came in, and they're with me all the time now. And there's some bigger fairies around the section that just sit there. They kind of, maybe they're a bit higher than the little fairies, and it will just be a tree stump or something. But I know they're there. I know what they are, and they're looking after this property. And that feels really special.
Huh. I sincerely believe that you're seeing them. I feel it through your art and your words. And I applaud you for pushing yourself to come and talk with me here tonight. I'm getting quite a lot of interesting bodily sensations as I listen to you. I don't know, somewhere along the line, I think something in my brain changed, much like your LSD trip. And I've become this antenna for fairy people talking about real fairy shit. It is an often difficult experience. I'll hang up these calls and I'm wiped out for 2 days because of just the amount I'm stretching my intuition to receive people, because it's just sometimes you got to kind of tease it out of people a little bit, because it's sometimes, eyebrow raising in polite company, which brings me to one of my next questions that I wanted to ask. Like, how do the people around you feel about your interest in fairies? You mentioned you've got a daughter. I didn't really hear you mention if you've got a partner or not, but I'm curious, like, you know, if you have a partner, what their perspective on it is, what your parents think, stuff like that.
Oh, okay. I think my partner, like, I do think some people are Fae, and I think he is. I think you can tell it to look at him, his eyes. He has these kind of twinkling eyes, and he's a genius. He's very good in several different fields. Like, he's a musician and a writer, and he's been like a medical researcher as well, and he's like uncovered things, done all sorts, and he's completely self-trained. But he's a genius, like he's officially a genius. But I think that he's like Fae folk, and he's like when I find an object and show it to him, he sees it straight away. The children, yeah, they obviously grew up believing in fairies, so I'm pretty sure they still believe in them. All my friends, yeah, I talk about the fairies, and I don't think anyone, thinks we're super weird or anything. I feel it's just accepted. I mean, I'm not sure what they really think, but they act like they accept it. Yeah.
I mean, fuck Costa Rica. I'm moving to New Zealand. It sounds like awesome over there. When you tell your husband, like, I think you're Fae, do you tell him that, first of all? That's a question I'd like to ask.
Yeah, I have told him. And he comes from Scotland. I think he's okay with that. Like, he knows that he's on a different frequency to most people, and everyone who knows him knows that. So I think, yeah. And some people, you just know they're Fae, just usually by the looks. I love going to the Steiner school and seeing the children there that I think, they just like have these eyes, and I just get lost in their, it's a bit weird, but I just like get lost in these little children's eyes. And I can just like, we're kind of connecting on this other dimension. I don't think I'm Fae, but I do think that I have some sort of wisdom. I'm not sure what it is, but the fact that, I can connect with the Fae, but also with spirits. And I'm not sure what I am, but I don't think I'm Fae, but I'm able to connect with like different beings in different dimensions.
I'm so glad I asked those last couple of questions. Everything you said there also gives me like weird goosebumps and seems so intuitively accurate to me. I don't think you're Fae either. I wouldn't classify you as one of those guests I'm going to call out and say, I think you're a fairy. You're totally right. But I totally would choose you as well as my publicist. This very matter of fact, no ambiguity, direct communicator. Like, if you were debriefing a bunch of raucous news reporters, it would be like a almost identical tone. Like, you're incredibly like effective and dispassionate at throwing me off anyway. So, that's all accurate as far as I can tell. You're very self-aware. And you know what? Like, the way you describe your husband, and specifically that you say you think some people are Fae, I'm going to give you that one too. I think some people are Fae. I know for sure a good handful of people I've talked to on this show are not just people. Like, no chance. Absolutely no chance. There's some guests that I still think about, every day, because of the way that they impacted me. And that can extend just beyond like a knowingness to real, I don't know. Some people can really like do things from afar that produce sensations and experiences that are undeniably powerful and are not just some sort of me tricking myself or whatever. It's funny, like, you're so like different than a lot of the people that I get a chance to talk to. I really want to thank you for coming forward. Are you having a good time? I'm having a good time. I'm just curious if you're having a good time.
Yeah, like, obviously after we finish, I'll say, oh, I can't believe I said that. But no, it's nice to talk about it. Yeah, and I know it's all a bit out there, but that's okay.
Sure, it's definitely out there, but it's also like right in there when it comes to this, show. Yeah, it's like a direct bullseye hit. With, an increasing awareness, I think, in the audience base of like what could be looked to as authentic. This fits right in. It's truly a great episode to go with the mix. I can already feel myself like analytically going back and looking at how I'm going to edit this and what it's going to feel like when we're done. And I like it already. So thank you again for the time that you've carved out. And I'm going to challenge myself to think of other good questions to ask you, because every one of them has a great answer. But as we move along, I'll kind of do this, because this is a way to get into a lot of next good questions, I think. So Haley, I ask every guest that comes on the show the same question. And we've talked, in part about some of it tonight, but I'm just going to ask you in one place here so that I can collect your thoughts and feelings in their entirety. My question doesn't have any, right or wrong or good or bad answer, or I should say light or dark answer for you, but it is truly just a question born out of, I think, a real curiosity, because no one actually knows. What do you think fairies are?
I guess I think they're nature spirits that live in a world that most human beings don't have access to. And what purpose do they have? Well, what purpose do we have? Like, to live their lives. Yeah, I don't know. I can't help but kind of think of them like aliens. Like, they're there, but we don't know. Sometimes we get to see them. Or spirits. They're there. We don't know why. Are they stuck here? Do they want to be here? We're not sure. But yeah, I just think they're nature spirits. That's what I think.
Huh. I like that kind of secondary part to your answer there, where you were veering off into alien territory. Sometimes I like to say they're phalians, like fairy aliens.
That's a good name. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, legitimately, there is total crossover between what many people think of as UAP phenomena and the Fae. Hard to say, honestly, that the two don't know about one another for sure, and we're just the only ones that are a little bit in the dark.
Yeah.
I do really appreciate that answer. And, I like that no one actually knows. It's why it's such a fun part of the show when we get to that point where I ask that question. Well, Haley, I'll tell you what. I feel like we've covered a good amount of ground here tonight. And if it's okay with you, I will sort of just wind down here with some of my podcaster housekeeping. Every guest that I talk to, I offer the chance for that guest to have the last word on the show. So if you would be so kind as to meditate for a moment here on your last words while I do my housekeeping, I will then invite you to offer your last words when I'm done. Is that cool with you?
Oh, yes, I'm just meditating. Yep.
Awesome. I thought so. Okay, well, for everybody listening, tonight you've been listening to Fascinating Fae, and I'm your host, Jim. If you have some connections with the Fae that's burning inside you and makes its way into art or other forms of expression, and you'd like to come on the show and talk about that, I'm always really interested to hear from people's various perspectives on the matter. So shoot me an email, encounters@fascinatingfae.com, and I'll definitely get back to you. You can also find the show on social media by looking for Fascinating Fae, and you can also message me on any of those channels for a quick response as well. With all that said, what I will say is that on behalf of all of our human and non-human listeners tuning into Fascinating Fae tonight, Haley, a super big thanks to you for coming on the show all the way from New Zealand. I sincerely appreciate this unusual and different episode we've had tonight. Thanks for making it with me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, with all that behind us, would you please offer some last words as we go to sign off here tonight?
Yeah, I think, like, look around you and those little dewdrops glistening, they may be there for a reason. And sometimes if you're feeling down, they might just be the thing that lifts you up. I think the Fae are communicating with us. Let's be open to that.
I am a castaway, longing for a ship to come my way. I woke up on this isle some years ago, it seems, in hope of rescue. It's vanished like a dream. Oh, oh. I wonder always, is it in my mind? I'll always wonder if I left myself behind, ever left myself behind, oh no. And why do we wait to unify these waters? This island won't be my land anymore. We blame it on fate and cheat our sons and daughters to cast away upon the lonesome shore. Cast away someplace so far away. I rubbed my hand in the sand and right help, and nobody came. I don't mind, it gave me some time to reflect on my own life. Sometimes I wish for this anyway. I wonder always, is it in my mind? I'll always wonder if I left myself behind, ever left myself behind, oh no. And why do we wait to unify these waters? This island won't be my land anymore. We blame it on fate and cheat our sons and daughters to cast away upon this lonesome shore. Why do we wait to unify these waters? This island won't be my land anymore. We blame it on fate and cheat our sons and daughters to cast away upon this lonesome shore. Upon the lonesome shore.
Well, well, I don't know if I can even call it an object because, frankly, it's a piece of a wood, but it is from a specific tree that is very important to me because it's related to history, also with my family, and the tree was because the tree has fallen and it's dead now, but the tree was almost 100 years old. So when I saw it not too long ago, that it had dropped to the ground and it was dead now, I decided to take some of the wood with me to my house because it's very important to me. And I wanted to keep it as sort of a keepsake for me. And by giving a piece of that wood to the Fae in by the way, a whole different section of the forest, it is kilometers away from where that dead tree is. So it's not from their forest per se, but I thought that by giving them that piece of the wood from that tree that was really important to me, I will show them that this is
well, that I am honest and that I am giving them something that is very important and dear to me, because essentially I trust them, and I would also like them to trust me, 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 me.